there was a real desire for us to restructure Europe on a whole series of policy issues. At the same time, however, we quickly realised that Europe has set the bar very high when it comes to integration. As a result, it will be impossible for us to integrate new members for some years or indeed even decades. So for Ukraine, as well as other countries, including the Western Balkans, which haven't yet initiated their accession procedure, the UK clearly has chosen itself to leave the European Union. So I've identified two criteria which are located to those countries should be in the European area, geographically speaking, and they should share the set of values which are part of the European Union. Under those conditions, such a community would make real sense. I don't want to be restrictive in my description of who could join and what its powers would be, but just let me give you some examples. Political coordination, collective security, and that's one way of moving towards the construction of the security architecture which the European continent needs so badly. Energy. We've all seen the effects of energy interdependence in geopolitical terms. Infrastructure, the need to integrate new regions and existing regions in the European Union, and the movement of people. I'm struck by the fact that in many cases our dealings with countries operate purely through the prism of future accession to the European Union, but that's too long a term issue. In the meantime, issues such as energy, the future for our young people, transport, infrastructure, energy, all of those issues are neglected. So I think this would be a way of addressing those issues, to anchor those countries in Europe, to create links with the European institutions without overburdening the agenda. So, if you don't mind, I'll be taking up my pilgrim's stick. Of course, I'm very much a secular pilgrim, despite the long religious history we have here in the Alsace region. But I'll be going out to try to convince the countries and governments in question that it would be of some value to them.
On making sure that it is consistent, that for those countries for whom they share and its citizens share the values and the principles and the fundamentals on which this union is based, then they should look to Europe as their home. This is what the Ukrainian people are asking us to do, and I think that we have reacted with such speed, but also our Ukrainian friends have reacted with speed in order to take the next step. Now, where does that next step take us? As the President said, there are different levels, different paths, but for us it is very clear that when it comes to further integration of countries for whom it is not only in their interest or their wish, but it is also our interest and our wish to see Ukraine at the very heart of Europe, just like we have to continue to dialogue with our partners in the Western Balkans and take those next steps, and also welcome the applications of Moldova and Georgia.
We see that Ukraine has a very special situation with a war raging on their soil, unleashed by Russia. And if I look forward to the near future for Ukraine, it is of utmost importance that we will build a reconstruction fund to have investment in Ukraine. I've discussed with President Zelensky that there will be investment not only through the European Union but also the international financial institutions and other international partners in the amount of billions, hundreds of billions of euros, but this has to go hand in hand with substantial reforms. For example, reforms getting rid of the oligarchs, reforms against corruption, and other reforms that are so paramount and necessary in Ukraine. The good part is there is an enormous momentum in that country really to move forward with the investment and with the reforms. This might pave the way in a different way into the European Union. And therefore, we have to have this very special look to Ukraine. Ukraine is already very close to the European Union. We share, for example, the electricity grid, just to give you one example that is telling. We have a very deep and comprehensive free trade agreement, the association agreement. So for Ukraine, once again, there is a special path we have to pave in a combination of massive investment and reforms.
Une deuxième question. Second question, yes, over there.
Thank you. Vincenzo Genovese from the Italian newspaper L'Inchiesta. I have a question for Monsieur le Président Macron. As a representative of the Council, would you please explain us how it's possible that the component of the Council in the Conference of the Future of Europe gave the green light to the final relation without assessing the content on the final relation, and it seems that several member states are quite unhappy with the conclusion of this conference. And then a question for all of you, because actually I don't know who can answer to this. Has the President Charles Michel been invited to this event? Thank you very much.
Peut-être sur votre première question.
On the first question, as I said, I have spoken in my capacity as President of the French Republic, and I'm not second-guessing the views of the other members of the Council, and as I've already said, we'll have a discussion in the upcoming June Council. Of course, there are differences of opinion between member states, and that is why I've said that if we do wish to move towards a convention on the basis of the conference, then we're going to have to closely define the framework and the terms of reference. I'm not going to, of course, predefine the conclusions, but I am going to put in place a framework for the process. That is my view, but it is not my job as President in office to try and formally consult or engage the European Council. We will have a discussion of all of that in June. Now, this is all about the procedure and the dynamic, if I can put it this way. If we're going to reform the treaties, then everybody will have to be on board. If we are going to make progress, then I think that the way forward is via the treaties. So we will have to have a structured dialogue, and we've already started in some regards. So we'll wait, as I say, until June. And I think that it is this formula that we have been employing over the last year, and nobody has been not invited as such, but I think it was clear to Charles Michel that it was the presidency in office, along with the Commission and the Parliament, that were involved. And it was, of course, Prime Minister Costa who was here at the outset, and vice versa today.
The idea that we keep the format that we had last year, also constitutionally, but of course all these discussions we will have in the European Council next month, and the positions of the institutions will be clarified, and that's what the position also that I will bring in that European Council is the one of the Parliament.
I think this is a very special moment, because what you see is that this outstanding conference on the future of Europe, with 49 proposals and 300 measures, gave to us an offer to work with it within the limits of a treaty or beyond. And what is so special at this moment is that we're taking this momentum from the conference on the future of Europe to show openness to a convention or the question of how are we going to deal with the treaties. And this openness, this is a dynamic we should use. There's a lot of hard work to do and a very structured progress if you look into the treaties, how a convention, for example, is to be decided upon. But I really cherish the moment of real momentum of European spirit to move forward.
Une dernière question ici, s'il vous plaît.
One last question down here, please. Good morning, Marie Chantrey for TF1 Television. My question is for you, President Macron. The 9th of May, that's an important day, of course, here in Strasbourg. Thinking back to what happened in Moscow this morning, do those differences demonstrate that we're talking about two entirely different models, two differences of the world? What do you think about what President Vladimir Putin said this morning in his speech? In particular, what do you intend to do to ensure that what he said be taken seriously, bring the horrors of war to an end? Thank you. I think we've shown two very different faces of the 9th of May. On the one hand, there was a clear desire to dominate using violence, to hold a bellicose, warrior-like speech. Whereas here, we've seen a broad-based citizens group working together to imagine and design the future of the European Parliament and the European Union, together with the language of peace, reconciliation, and the music which goes with that. So those are two entirely different approaches, obviously. The European project emerged from war, and that's something we should never forget. Moreover, it was born out of our desire to avoid any recurrence of that war. So this desire for peace, stability, and I would add social justice and environmental ambition is a project which we have to continue building. We have to make it more democratic, more sovereign. That's one of the main conclusions of this conference, and we will build on those conclusions. President Putin, I don't like commenting on other leaders, but when it comes to adopting a warlike stance, we are clearly on Ukraine's side. We are here to help the people of Ukraine and the country to resist. We're there to help them with humanitarian needs and to take in refugees. We also continue to take sanctions against Russia with a view to stopping its war. And we also intend to act responsibly to bring about a ceasefire while averting the danger of the conflict spreading elsewhere in Europe. In the future, however, we will have to rebuild peace. Let's never forget that. I said it beforehand. We have to rebuild peace around a table with both Russia and Ukraine. And the terms of those discussions will be defined by Russia and Ukraine. But we would never achieve anything by denying the existence of one of the partners or excluding them. So, after 1945, Europe suffered humiliation on one part of it, and the same happened again post-1989. We know that the next few weeks and months will be difficult, but we are there for the partners, and we intend to show the same level of determination as we have historically speaking. What we have to do now is ensure that from now on we can act decisively, taking strong decisions which will further strengthen Europe to make it indestructible so that we can continue supporting Ukraine.
That what you see before you is three persons that represent different institutions that came together today with a common message that not only are we here to listen, but it's now our responsibility to take it forward. Yes, we are in the context of a war in Europe. Who would have told us 1 year ago when this conference was launched? But it is because we are in the situation that we need to take this opportunity to be able to give the responses that we need. Some will require changes in the treaty, some will require political will and coming together stronger than we have ever been before. Some will require difficult decisions, but this Parliament and the institutions are ready to take that forward. And we have a responsibility within the context, in the face of being threatened, being blackmailed by Russia, especially on this day, that this is a message of peace that we give back and a message of solidarity with the people of Ukraine and a commitment to work and take this project forward.
Ich glaube, dass der heutige Tag
I think that today speaks volumes, and it speaks for itself. On the one hand, you see an autocrat, Vladimir Putin, in Moscow, and he has had his military parade. This is the only thing he has to offer his people. And then on the other hand, here in the European Parliament, you see a celebration of democracy. You've got 27 member states. You've got 24 different languages. You've got representatives of 450 million people who have enjoyed free debate and the exchange of ideas about our democracy. And I think that that is our strength, because behind this freedom we have our economic clout, and that is why today was such a decisive one. Thank you very much to all of you.